When a frightened girl is rescued from a locked room in her mother's house, police believe they've saved her from a tragic case of child abuse. But what she draws with her crayons leads them to a far more chilling truth. Behind the walls of a quiet suburban home lies a basement no one knew existed, filled with horrors no one can forget. The deeper detectives dig, the more they uncover a web of secrets, missing children, and a mother whose love was nothing but a lie. What if the person you trust the most is your worst nightmare? It was a chilly October evening in the quiet town of Harrow's Field, a place where nothing ever seemed to go wrong. Rows of tidy homes stood like perfect cutouts from a real estate magazine. The trees had just begun to shed their red gold leaves, and the air carried that eerie silence that only small towns knew so well. Detective Noah Briggs had seen his share of tragedies, but something about this case made his gut twist. A 14-year-old girl named Leah Montgomery had vanished 3 days ago. No fights, no boyfriends, no reason to run. One moment she was walking home from school, and the next, gone. No footprints, no struggle, nothing. The neighborhood was tight-knit. Everyone knew each other. And yet, nobody had seen anything. Cameras? Noah asked the local patrol officer, flipping through a notepad on his dashboard. None in the area. Just one smart doorbell 4 houses down, but it glitched the entire evening. Leah disappeared. Officer Jamie Reed replied, frowning. It's like she vanished into thin air. Noah rubbed his chin. People don't just vanish. Someone saw something. Someone knows something. He looked down the block again. All those perfect houses. Perfect lawns. Perfect silence. They began door-to-door checks. Most neighbors were eager to help, sympathetic, cooperative. Except for one house at the far end of the cul-de-sac. It was an old Victorian home with ivy crawling up its porch rails and heavy drapes drawn over every window. The mailbox read Doyle. Noah knocked. The door opened just a crack. A woman in her 50s peeked through. She wore a floral apron over a pale green dress, and her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Yes? She asked sweetly. Ma'am, Noah said, flashing his badge. We're investigating the disappearance of a girl named Leah Montgomery. She was last seen in this neighborhood. Oh dear, the woman said softly. That's just terrible. But I'm afraid I haven't seen a thing. Mind if we ask a few questions? Jamie added. I'd rather not, the woman said with a polite but firm tone. My daughter's resting. She's very sensitive to strangers. Understood. But if anything comes to mind, I'll call, she said quickly, and closed the door. Noah stared at it. Something's off. Jamie nodded. Did you see her hands? Trembling. And she said she had a daughter. There's no record of a daughter registered at this address. That night, Noah sat in his office, replaying the conversation in his mind. The name Martha Doyle came up clean in the system. Widow. Former nurse. Quiet history. No prior complaints. But that house. Something about it screamed, don't look too close. And then the phone rang. It was a boy from the local school, a classmate of Leah's. He didn't want to give his name, but he whispered something that chilled Noah's blood. Leah was tutoring someone, a girl who never left her house. She said the mom was creepy, controlling, like abusive. Her name was Emily Doyle. Next morning, Noah and Jamie returned with a warrant. Martha answered again, now flustered, cheeks red. Is this necessary? Really? I'm afraid it is. Noah replied firmly. The officers stepped inside. The smell hit them first. Not rot, but sterile like bleach and something metallic underneath. The living room was pristine like a magazine shoot, but everything looked untouched, too clean. No family photos, no signs of life, just silence. Martha, Noah said calmly. Where is your daughter? She's resting. Martha said again. She's very sensitive. We'll need to speak with her. Reluctantly, she led them to the staircase. As they reached the second floor, Jamie's voice caught. Sir, there were locks on the outside of the bedroom doors. Noah's hand moved to his gun. "Open it," he told Martha. "I don't think that's necessary. Open it now." Martha hesitated. Then she reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small key. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the door. What they found inside would haunt them forever. A small girl, no older than 13, sat cross-legged on the floor. Her hair was tangled, her arms bruised, and her eyes wide, terrified, and silent. She didn't speak. She didn't move. On the walls were children's drawings, twisted, dark sketches of cages, crying figures, and a woman with hollow eyes. There was a bowl of soup by the door, untouched and cold. Jamie whispered, "Oh my God." They took Emily into protective custody immediately. She didn't speak a word, but she clung to Jamie like her life depended on it. Martha was taken into custody, still insisting, "I was protecting her. The world is full of monsters. I saved her." Noah stared at her through the glass as she was booked. "Lady," he muttered, "you are the monster." Back at the station, Emily finally began to draw again. This time, she drew two girls herself and another with blonde hair. Noah recognized the face. It was Leah Montgomery. And in the background of the picture was the basement door. Detective Noah Briggs had worked in homicide for over 15 years, but something about the Doyle house chilled him beyond reason. They had rescued Emily, frail, malnourished, and mute, from her locked room upstairs. Her drawings hinted at a second girl, a blonde one, a friend. One she called Leah, the same Leah Montgomery who was still missing. And in the bottom corner of Emily's newest drawing, shaded in shaky pencil strokes, was a wooden door. One they hadn't opened. A basement. The very next morning, Noah and Officer Jamie Reed returned to the Doyle home with a forensic team. They'd seen enough in the upstairs bedroom to know this woman wasn't just unwell, she was dangerous. "We never saw a basement door," Jamie said, scanning the spotless kitchen. "Because it's hidden," Noah replied. "Behind that pantry shelf." Sure enough, one of the pantry walls was slightly uneven. When they moved the shelf aside, it revealed a narrow wooden door with an old iron handle. Noah signaled the team. Flashlights on. Guns out. They descended carefully, one step at a time, into complete darkness. The air was thick and stale. Each creak of the stairs echoed like a scream. The basement looked like something out of a nightmare. The first thing they saw were chains bolted into the concrete wall. Heavy ones, rusted with time. A filthy mattress sat in the corner, soaked through with stains. Next to it, a single stuffed animal torn at the seams. And scribbled across the wall in childish handwriting were 3 words. "Don't trust Mommy." Jamie gagged. Jesus, Noah's jaw clenched. This is where she kept them. The forensics team began photographing everything. Bloodstains on the floor, scratches on the walls, old food containers with moldy remnants. There were even broken toys, and a small name carved into the wooden beam above the mattress. Leah. Noah's breath caught. She was here. Later that evening, while the evidence was being processed, Noah visited the hospital where Emily had been placed under observation. The psychologist had made little progress. "She doesn't talk much," the doctor said, "but she keeps drawing. You'll want to see this." Emily's latest drawing was different. It showed Leah again. Only this time, Leah was under the floor. A trapdoor. Dark. Hidden. Buried. Noah stood frozen. "She's not missing," he whispered. "She's buried. In that house." They returned that night with cadaver dogs and a full excavation team. For hours, they combed through the basement and the backyard. And then, one of the dogs began to bark. Loud. Frantic. A patch of dirt in the far corner of the basement had been recently disturbed. The team dug carefully, layer by layer. And then, a shoe. Small. Pink. Partially decayed. Within minutes, they unearthed a shallow grave containing the decomposed remains of a teenage girl. Leah Montgomery had been found. Back at the station, Martha Doyle remained eerily calm in her cell. She wouldn't obey, she said when told about the discovery. She tried to take Emily from me. She called the police. She was going to ruin us. You murdered a child, Jamie snapped. You locked your own daughter in a cage. I saved her, Martha said, her eyes wild now. I saved her from the world. I did what had to be done. Noah turned away, disgusted. He knew what monsters looked like now. They didn't always hide under beds. Sometimes they wore aprons and smiled too sweetly. Emily's recovery. In the weeks that followed, Emily slowly began to heal. With therapy, her voice returned, soft, shaking, but real. She was my friend, she whispered to Jamie one day. Leah said she'd help me leave, but Mommy heard. Then, Leah was gone. Jamie promised her she'd never be locked away again. She can never hurt you now. Martha Doyle was now in custody, charged with kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and the murder of Leah Montgomery. The town of Harrowsfield was still in shock. The house at the end of the cul-de-sac had become a symbol of hidden evil, proof that horror could wear the mask of an ordinary mother. But for Detective Noah Briggs, the case didn't feel finished. Not yet. Something about Martha's calmness during the investigation, the cold justification of her actions, and the hidden basement didn't sit right. Jamie, he said one morning, what if Leah wasn't the first? They pulled old files, missing persons cases spanning back 20 years, all within a 100-mile radius. Most had been dismissed as runaways or unresolved. But one name caught Jamie's attention. Amelia Voss, age 10. Missing, 2009. Last seen walking home from school in a nearby town. She lived just 2 blocks from the hospital where Martha used to work, Jamie said. And she disappeared during a summer Martha was suspended for emotional instability. Another case surfaced. Samantha Greer, age 9. Missing, 2003. The same pattern. No leads. Last known location? Within driving distance of Martha's old residence. Third name. Then a fourth. This can't be coincidence, Jamie whispered. Noah nodded grimly. She's a serial predator. And no one ever knew. They revisited the Doyle house, this time with ground-penetrating radar. The backyard was scanned, inch by inch. Under the garage slab, they found something. The concrete had been poured unevenly. A team broke through the surface. Beneath it, sealed in makeshift containers, they found the unthinkable remains of 2 more children, both with similar features. Blonde hair, small bones, torn clothing. Forensic testing would take weeks, but it was already clear. Leah wasn't Martha's only victim. Meanwhile, Emily's drawings continued. She showed a room with red walls, a bed with restraints, a mirror, tray with needles. She called it Mommy's Red Room. It didn't exist in the Doyle house, which meant there was another location. Another house. Noah dug into Martha's property history. A foreclosed farmhouse on the outskirts of town showed up under her deceased husband's name. It had been empty for over a decade. When they arrived, it was surrounded by overgrown weeds and boarded windows. Inside was a time capsule of rot and dust. In the basement, they found it. Red walls, metal bed, a wall of mirrors, and a cabinet filled with syringes, tranquilizers, and hospital-grade restraints. What kind of monster was she? Jamie muttered. Noah didn't answer. He was staring at the far wall. Written in faded red paint, barely visible. Tell no one, or you disappear too. They found 3 more children's belongings. A shoe, a pink bracelet, a notebook filled with scribbles. One page had a chilling sentence. She says love is obedience. And if I scream, I don't get dinner. Back at the station, Martha was shown the photos. Her reaction was disturbing. She smiled. Ah, she said softly, so you found the quiet house too. When asked about the additional children, she tilted her head. They weren't strong enough. Emily was. That's why I kept her. The media exploded. Mother of 4 murders. House of Horrors investigation deepens. Former nurse behind string of child disappearances across decade. Emily became the face of survival, though her journey had just begun. She would remain under care, now with a team of counselors and a foster guardian trained in trauma recovery. Noah visited her once a week. Each visit, she said more, laughed a little, smiled, but the shadows never fully left her eyes. The trial of Martha Doyle began 6 months after the discovery of Leah's body and the hidden graves beneath the garage. The courthouse was packed with media, families of the missing girls, and a silent sea of protesters holding up signs that read, "Justice for the Forgotten. No more monsters in disguise." Martha, now 56, sat calmly in court with her hands folded in her lap. She wore a pale blue sweater and an emotionless expression. Her attorneys tried to argue insanity. The state pushed for life without parole. But the real weight of the case rested on Emily Doyle, the daughter who had survived it all. The star witness. Now 12 years old, Emily had grown stronger, her voice steadier. On the stand, she sat next to a comfort dog and answered questions in a clear, controlled voice. "Did your mother hurt you, Emily?" the prosecutor asked gently. Emily nodded. "She didn't let me eat if I made noise. I had to be good, quiet, and I couldn't cry." That made her angry. "And what about Leah?" Emily hesitated. The room held its breath. She said, "Leah tried to help me. She wanted to run away. But Mommy caught her. Then she was gone. I knew she wouldn't come back." Martha showed no emotion. She simply looked at her daughter like a stranger. The most chilling moment came when Emily revealed something no one expected. She had another girl before Leah, she said. Her name was Hope. She said Hope screamed too much, so she buried her in the red room. The court fell silent. There was no record of a girl named Hope. No case file. No report. But the investigators acted quickly, returning to the farmhouse. In a sealed crawlspace beneath the floorboards of the red basement room, they found another set of remains. DNA confirmed it belonged to a child aged 9 to 10. Her name was never found. Emily's memory had just solved another murder. The verdict: Martha Doyle was convicted on 6 counts of murder, 3 counts of unlawful imprisonment, and multiple charges of child abuse and torture. The judge called her a remorseless predator hiding behind motherhood and sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. When asked if she had any final words, Martha stood slowly, looked directly at Emily, and said, "You were always my favorite." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Emily looked away. A&W life for Emily. Emily was adopted by Officer Jamie Reed and her wife, who had stood by her throughout the investigation. She began attending school under a new name and slowly started living like a normal child. She painted. She laughed. But some nights, Jamie would find her curled up in the closet, whispering to herself, "She's watching me." Healing would take time. But Emily was no longer alone, no longer voiceless. She was a survivor. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel Color Off Stories for more intense and emotional true crime-inspired tales. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Because sometimes, the darkest stories hide behind the most ordinary doors.